story of your enslavement, how it happened, and how you can finally regain your freedom.
This is Aldous Huxley, a man haunted by a vision of hell on earth. A searing social critic, Mr. Huxley, 27 years ago, wrote Brave New World, a novel that predicted that someday the entire world would live under a frightful dictatorship. Today, Mr. Huxley says that his fictional world of horror is probably just around the corner for all of us. Mr. Huxley, in your new essays, you state that these various enemies of freedom are pushing us toward a real-life, brave new world, and you say that it's awaiting us just around the corner. First of all, can you detail for us what life in this brave new world which you fear so much, or what life might be like?
Well, to start with, I think this kind of the dictatorship of the future, I think will be very unlike the dictatorships which we've been familiar with in the immediate past. I mean, take another book prophesying the future, which was a very remarkable book, George Orwell's 1984. Well, this book was written at the height of the Stalinist regime and just after the Hitler regime. And there he foresaw a dictatorship using entirely the methods of terror, the methods of physical violence. Now, I think what is going to happen in the future is the dictators will find, as the old saying goes, that you can do everything with bayonets except sit on them. That if you want to preserve your power indefinitely, you have to get the consent of the ruled. And this they will do partly by drugs, as I foresaw in Brave New World, partly by these new techniques of propaganda. They will do it by bypassing the sort of rational side of man and appealing to his subconscious and his deeper emotions and his physiology even, and so making him actually love his slavery. I mean, I think this is the danger, that actually people may be in some ways happy under the new regime.
Government of the people and by the people sets a single standard for all who would hold power. You must maintain your power through consent, not coercion. Consent, not coercion, not coercion.
A difficult thing for some people to understand is what's happening today is not just an elite making a final move to take over anything. Every generation for hundreds of years has been brought up with the same elite's predecessors, designing and running the show for each generation.
I think all our society is run by insane people for insane objectives. You know, and I think that's what I sussed when I was 16 and 12 way down the line. But I expressed it differently all through my life. It's the same thing I'm expressing all the time, but now I can put it into that sentence that I think we're being run by maniacs for maniacal ends, you know. I'd be very pleased to know what they think they're doing. I think they're all insane.
The elite, in fact, are simply moving their system into a new system, an updated system to suit themselves. That's a hard concept for people to grasp. They've been trained to believe things are happening at the moment by happenstance, by crisis coming out of nowhere. And here's what we must do. We must solve this problem at the time. Nothing is further from the truth.
I had a friend, Nick Rockefeller, okay, who was one of the Rockefeller family. And he, when I was running for governor in Nevada, he came to me, introduced himself to me through an attorney. And we became friends. We started talking about things. And I learned an awful lot from Mr. Rockefeller. And one of the things that we used to talk about was the ultimate plan of the banking industry, what they wanted to accomplish. And the goals of the banking industry, not just the Federal Reserve System, but the private banks in Germany and England, all over Italy, all over the world, they all work together. They're all central banks, and they're all part of the Communist Manifesto. You know, central banking is one of the major planks of the Communist Manifesto. We talk about America being a capitalistic country, but yet at the same time we have a central bank that plans everything for us, right? And the graduated income tax is another plank of the Communist Manifesto, right? So right there you have two major planks of the Communist Manifesto that have been brought in because of the Federal Reserve System, okay? So the ultimate goal that these people have in mind is the goal to create a one-world government.
All of the great collectivists of history have had this unified global government based on the model of collectivism as their goal, and we fought against it until recently. Now we are actually the greatest advocates of it ourselves. We don't call it tyranny, we don't call it fascism or Nazism or communism. We have a better name for it. The name they have chosen is the New World Order.
Now we can see a new world coming into view. A world in which there is the very real prospect of a new world order. A world where the United Nations, freed from Cold War stalemate, is poised to fulfill the historic vision of its founders.
The New World Order is a more palatable name for the Anglo-American world empire. It's the planetary domination of London, New York, Washington over the rest of the world. It's hard to get people to join that or think they have a part in it if you call it the Anglo-American world empire. If you call it the New World Order, then people in India or someplace like that or the European Union might think, well, there's something in that for us too. But that's not what it is. It's the Anglo-American New World Order. It's really the old world order. It's the British Empire morphing into the American Empire. The U.S.-British world empire is what you're going to get.
We're gonna spread happiness. We're gonna spread freedom. Obama's gonna change it. Obama's gonna lead us.
We've got to give them a stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to see.
I think its task will be to develop an overall strategy for America in this period when really a new world order can be created. It's a great opportunity.
Do you have any regret or remorse for the human suffering, Mr. Kissinger, that you caused millions of people in Chile and Argentina and East Timor? Mr. Kissinger, I know you're not going to respond, but I don't want your New World Order, and you won't have one, Mr. Kissinger. National sovereignty will prevail, freedom will reign, nation states will survive, sir, and you will not have your New World Order, your eugenics, because we are changed and we are taking this generation back, sir. We just want to let you know the New World Order has no legitimacy, and that we as a people are not afraid, and we are waking up to the robber barons and the big banksters who are looting this economy with the Federal Reserve.
Well, come back. We don't want your New World Order, you know? Leave Chile right now. Leave Chile. You are not... You're killing a lot of people. You're killing a lot of people. Leave here. Leave Chile right now. Leave Chile. Leave Chile. We don't want your world government. Leave Chile right now. Leave Chile, okay?
In recent decades, worldwide social change has experienced unprecedented historical acceleration, particularly because instant mass communications, such as radio, television, and the internet, cumulatively have been stimulating a universal awakening of mass political consciousness.
Brzezinski, you will never get a New World Order. Never. National sovereignty will prevail. The New World Order is going down, sir. You can laugh. Wake up, people. Wake up. Research the New World Order. This is important. Look it up. Investigate it.
The resulting widespread rise in worldwide populist activism is proving inimical to external domination of the kind that prevailed in the age of colonialism and imperialism. Persistent and highly motivated populist resistance of politically awakened and historically resentful peoples to external control has proven to be increasingly difficult to suppress.
The truth of your world government has now been exposed. We know you are ruthless. We know you are evil. To David Rockefeller, to the Rothschild representatives here, to the Queen of the Netherlands, to all of you, we tell you, you are not our queens, you are not our kings, you are not our gods. We do not belong to you. We are not your slaves. We stand as free humans, have stood since the beginning of time against the strong men, against the thugs, against the bullies. We will defeat your world government. We will defeat world taxation. We will defeat your control grid. God is on our side. You will and you are failing now. Your new world order will fall. Humanity will defeat you. The answer to 1984 is 1776.
What is the consent of the governed? Natural rights are inherent to your humanity and the source of your sovereignty as a free individual. Just as slaves have the moral and legal right to leave those enslaving them, just as the states have the moral and legal right to leave a union that violates the Constitution that binds them, so too you have the moral right to live without a government when it breaks its own laws. The federal government claims your consent through the Constitution. The Constitution is a social contract that binds the American people to their government. Did you freely consent to this? I don't know anybody who did. So since none of us consented to the Constitution, either the government stays within the confines of the Constitution or we can ignore or change the government. This view, called the consent of the governed, was widely and openly accepted by the framers. They gave us a Constitution which defines limits and constrains the government. This is why adherence to the Constitution by all government is so crucial to preserving and retaining our freedoms. The Constitution formalizes the relationship between sovereign people and sovereign states and the federal government. When the Constitution is ignored, so is our sovereignty. And if we can't avoid a government to which we never gave consent and which violates the Constitutions, so will our freedoms be ignored.
One way to take control of the streets pretty quickly is either to use water cannon or to get the army on the streets.
No, the way we police in the UK, the way we police is by consent. We want police able to work with their communities to ensure that they can deal with the disorder that is taking place.
America polices in a different way to we do over here. Here we police by consent. That consent has been shown in swathes in recent days with the support we've had from members of the public. America police by force. We don't want to do that in this country.
All governments must maintain power through consent, not coercion.
How do we get them to recognize that they're the nanny and we have grown up and they have no more power as nanny over us? It's about how we treat them, about how we act. If we're shitting our pants, pardon the language, ladies and sensitive guys, but if we're pooping our drawers, nanny has a right and a duty to put diapers on us, and she will do that. If you're throwing a tantrum, nanny has the power and the right to come grab you, throw you in your room until you settle down. If you're rebellious, nanny's got a right to put limits upon you as long as you're in the house. Nanny is tired. She wants us to stop rebelling. If you get to the point where you say, nanny, I'm not rebelling anymore, I'm just old enough now and I'm in charge of the house and you're not telling me what time I'm going to bed. I'm telling you I'm going out all night, I'll be back at 7, you'll have breakfast ready. You take power over them when you act within that capacity.
All of the great movements of history have always started with simple concepts. The freedom movement in America and in the world right now is in very serious need of some simple concepts, some simple principles. And so the first step toward reversing this drift toward global, collectivist, tyrannical government is to know what we believe in, what is freedom, and be able to define it, to be able to defend it, to be able to argue against the collectivists and say this system is better than that for this reason, and this reason. And then finally, the ultimate question is, well, who's going to do this? It's easy to become despondent, discouraged, and say, well, nobody cares. My neighbor is out cutting his grass. He's a good guy. We talk about baseball. We talk about the weather. We can talk about the latest movies. But he doesn't want to talk about politics. He doesn't care about the economy. He just doesn't want to become informed. And he certainly doesn't want to take any personal responsibility for monitoring and changing the system. So how are you going to fight this great drift toward global government with all of these powerful people at the top and nobody on the street cares? The answer is that all movements of history have always been determined by less than 3% of the population. You don't need everybody out there. In fact, it'll never happen. It'll never happen. Never happened before in history, and it won't happen now, and certainly won't happen in the future. 3% or less of the population are always the movers and the shakers. If you can reach 3% of the people who really care and who really have the mindset and who are willing to make the sacrifices and the dedication to this task, it can be done. And the guy next door will continue to push his lawnmower, and he'll go whichever way the system goes. It's always been that way. So we don't need to be discouraged by the fact that not everybody is taking an interest.
When the recession hit in Iceland, they were sitting in a much worse situation than we are now. But they handled it a little differently. In fact, they completely revolted. They rebelled, they went nuts. They went down to the parliament and they started throwing rocks. In fact, what happened next, according to a Ron Paul article, was extraordinary. The belief that citizens had to pay for the mistakes of a financial monopoly, that an entire nation must be taxed to pay off private debts, was shattered, transforming the relationship between citizens and their political institutions and eventually driving Iceland's leaders to the side of their constituents. The head of state, Ólafur Ragnar Grímsson, refused to ratify the law that would have made Iceland citizens responsible for its bankers' debt and accepted calls for a referendum. Obviously, they're not drinking the fluoride over in Iceland, because then in March 2010, they passed a referendum with a 93% vote against repayment of the debt. The people just said no. Iceland chose the route of protecting its populace, the taxpayer, from absorbing more debt so that the global banking oligarchy could be made whole. With the support of a furious citizenry, the government launched civil and penal investigations into those responsible for the financial crisis. They went out with arrest warrants for the ex-president. They actually went and indicted the prime minister and arrested the top 3 CEOs of the top banks. That's how Iceland handled it. So, this is what else they did. They forgave the debt of a quarter of their citizens. 25% of their citizens, they just said, no, you don't have to pay it back. And for those people that were underwater in their mortgages, over 110%, they forgave those too. Now, they didn't take that very well, the bankers that control everything. They threatened them, they intimidated them, they said, when you go down, we're not going to give you any loans. But guess what? They didn't go down. In fact, they flourished. On top of it, they wrote a new constitution. This is what they did. The people of Iceland elected 25 citizens from among 522 adults not belonging to any political party, but recommended by at least 30 other citizens. This document was not the work of a handful of politicians, but was actually written on the internet. The constituents' meetings were streamed online, and the citizens could send their comments and suggestions, witnessing the document as it took shape. The Constitution that eventually emerged from this participatory democratic process will be submitted to Parliament for approval after the next elections. So they rewrote the Constitution. They actually threw the politicians out. They got people, normal people, that the other people at all decided that these were the best people, and then they put it online. I mean, talk about democratic. Okay, so how did that turn out? Everyone said it was going to go down. It was this big experiment because we really haven't heard, right? Well, I'll tell you how it turned out. They're flourishing. Their GDP has rebounded. In fact, they're doing better than the EU and most of the developing nations right now. And according to the Fitch rating on Bloomberg, the unorthodox crisis policy response in Iceland has succeeded. So, the takeaway is QE1 didn't work, QE2 didn't work, and QE3 is certainly not going to work. Hyperinflating our dollar is not going to work. What will work? What did work is Iceland's program. So they sent policemen in to arrest the bankers, and they succeeded. They're doing great. So I say, let's do what Iceland did.
Burn down the system, keep the fire burning. Teach the youths what them need to be learning. Don't know the government, see what them earning. Make your head start turning, go so well. Burn down the system, keep the fire burning. Teach the youths what them need to be learning. Burn down the government, keep the fire blazing. Whole world gone crazy.
Take a little look in at the daily newspaper. Every weekend the crime rate a inflator. Why them get choked and the girl them get raper? Them only love the green paper. That's why them don't have no heart or no conscience. Them a deal with badness and a pure nonsense. Killing one another like it is a contest. Why them can't let Jaja bless? Burn down the system, keep the fire burning. Teach the youth what them need to be learning. Don't know the government, see what them earning. Make your head start turning, go so well. Burn down the system, keep the fire burning. Teach the youth what them need to be learning. Burn down the government, keep the fire blazing. Whole world gone crazy. Why them a go terrorize? Why them a go victimize? When them gonna realize your life you need to analyze. But you need to make a choice, listen to the father voice. What you doing, call the people them strife. Robbing and you're stealing and you're chopping and you're dealing. When you're out the road you disrespect the ghetto youth's feeling. Weapons and your drugs overflowing through the ceiling. Working for the devil, he and you is a demon. SOS. Somebody trigger the alarm for distress. What happened to Bermuda, my land, it's a mess. Corruption and violence and war make me vex. Please judge a bless, tell them SOS. Somebody trigger the alarm for distress. What happened to Bermuda, my land, it's a mess. Corruption and violence and war make me vex. Please judge a bless.
Yo, burn down the system, keep the fire burning. Teach the youth what them need to be learning. Don't know the government, see what them earning. Make your head start turning, go so well. Burn down the system, keep the fire burning. Teach the youth what them need to be learning. Burn down the government, keep the fire blazing. Whole world gone crazy.
Take a look in at the daily newspaper. Every weekend the crime rate a inflator. Why them get choked and the girl them get raper? Them only love the green paper. That's why them don't have no heart or no conscience. Them a deal with badness and a pure nonsense. Killing one another like it is a contest. Why them can't let Jaja bless? SOS. Somebody trigger the alarm for distress. What happened to Bermuda, my land, it's a mess. Corruption and violence and war make me vex. Please Jaja bless, tell them SOS. Somebody trigger the alarm for distress. What happened to Bermuda, my land, it's a mess. Corruption and violence and war make me vex. Please judge a bless.
Yo, burn down the system, keep the fire burning. Teach the youth what them need to be learning. Don't know the government, see what them earning. Make your head start turning, go so well. Burn down the system, keep the fire burning. Teach the youth what them need to be learning. Burn down the government, keep the fire blazing. Whole world gone crazy.
Burn down the system. Burn down the system. Burn down the